Uh, Kiran, you may start, please. I think we are all set.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Kiran Amir and I am the Director of Operations at Parsa Eco Pakistan Super Hub. I would like to welcome you all to yet another Eco session in series of Palliative Care Eco, supported by unrestricted educational grant by Sami Pharmaceutical Private Limited. Special thanks there to Mr. Mahmood Dar and Mr. Abid Salimi, and it is in collaboration with Pakistan Society of Hepatology. Today's session is hepatic encephalopathy, and our expert for tonight is Dr. Farooq Khan. Before I introduce to our expert for tonight's session, we have to go through some standard announcements. We are part of a global movement called Project ECHO, based in USA, with the objective to disseminate knowledge and best practices. We do protect patient privacy, so none of the information used in this session will identify any individual or patient. For maintaining discipline, you all are muted, but we do encourage participation. So you can unmute yourself for question or use the raised hand option or chat box. By participating, you have given the consent for recording. The recorded session will be available on our YouTube channel and link will be shared by Haris in the chat box. For CME credits, please contact Uzair, our coordinator. His number is mentioned on the banner. Our expert, Dr. Farooq Khan, is a leading consultant gastroenterologist and hepatobiliary physician at University Hospitals of Leicester, NHS Trust Clinical Lead and Liver Cirrhosis, East Midlands, NHS England. Dr. Farooq Khan is an integral part of Parsa Eco Pakistan and a passionate teacher with a special interest in providing palliative care to patients with debilitating and critical diseases. So I will hand over to Dr. Farooq.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Right, okay. Let's start. Everyone, thanks for coming. This is yet another session of the palliative curriculum, what we're trying to deliver. This is going to be a long talk, I'm afraid. I have tried my every best to try and squeeze, but encephalopathy is just not possible to be squeezed into one session, let alone 30 minutes. But I'll try and be quick. Because हमारा जो aim है ना, वो primarily इस चीज़ पे है कि कौन से patients हैं जिनको हमने pick पहले करना, who need most of our attention, and then how do we actually manage them in either hospital, either outpatients or home. So let's start. I'm not going to spend too much time on, but I think if you allow me just 2 to 3 minutes on the pathogenesis, I think Debbie Shawcross have explained it once, and I think it's really, really helpful. अच्छा, normally होता क्या है कि हम जो खाना खाते हैं, that from our gut, it gets converted into what we know, all the amino acids into ammonia. The very large load then goes into the liver, which then use the urea cycle and convert it into urea, which either gets excreted by the kidneys, large amount of it. Some of this goes to muscle, but it really is negligible amount. And the substrate of the glutamine, even if it's produced, again taken up by the kidneys, converted into urea, and off it goes. So that happens normally. Okay. Well, what does happen when you have scarring of the liver? We know we would still continue to eat, we would still metabolize amino acids, and we would still produce ammonia. However, we know now that liver is not working as it should be. So therefore, muscle takes up the role of ammonia metabolism. जो आपके liver patients होते हैं ना, जिनमें आप sarcopenia देखते हो, muscle wasting देखते हो, कमजोरी या fatigue देखते हो, this is what the basis of the mechanism behind, क्योंकि उनका जो muscle है इस वक्त वो work कर रहा है as a factory of sorting out the ammonia. This is where a lot of churning is coming out. Now we all know that whatever muscle can do, the effectivity of the urea cycle metabolism through the mitochondria as compared to the liver isn't going to be as effective. So therefore, there's a large amount of glutamine which produces up in the blood and in the brain. Ammonia then travels easily itself crosses the blood-brain barrier and goes to the brain. Okay, very small amount picked up by the kidneys and therefore converted into urea. So muscle plays a very, very important role in ammonia metabolism in cirrhosis. So what happens in brain? Where does encephalopathy comes in? We know ammonia level goes up, we know glutamine goes up, but what does this mean? Okay, अच्छा ये मैं आपको ना, let me just explain it in a very simple way. हम सबको ये पता है कि encephalopathy is down to cerebral edema. The more edema is going to be, the more encephalopathic our patient. Achha, acute liver failure, mein, this is not a problem because the liver itself is so acute and it's so massive that the brain edema goes very, very quickly and your patient becomes encephalopathic and he gets zoned. So he goes from nowhere straight to last stages of encephalopathy. And you know this is encephalopathy. So where does the problem start and why? Let me explain you this. जब ये ammonia blood-brain barrier cross करता है, तो the substrate which is glutamine, ammonia combines with an enzyme called glutamine synthetase, and it then produces what we call glutamine. जो glutamine है ना, it's a very osmolarly active. As soon as it goes into the astrocytes of the brain cells, it draws water with it. You guys can see there's a lot of water that goes into the cell, and what you see in an electron micrograph that the astrocyte or the brain cells start to swell up. Okay, the problem begins depending on how much the brain swelling is happening of the astrocytes will reflect directly on what level of encephalopathy is there, and it is driven not just by this, it's also driven by oxidative stress as well as infection and inflammation, cytokines mediated, and I will come to that. But इसीलिए ये reversible भी है. जो acute है, that's very, very fast, and you really either have to do interventions to try and reduce it. But in chronic, you have a very subtle changes in the swelling of the brain, and your patient then fluctuates. आप उसको rifaximin देते हो, आप उसको treat करते हो, brain की swelling ठीक होती है, patient उठ के बैठ जाता है. आपको और मुझे day and daily हम ये face करते हैं कि एक हम patient को, family को ये बता देते हैं कि जी आप ये नहीं उठ रहे हैं, बहुत इनके मुश्किल वक्त है, और but then the next morning we come for a ward round and patient is better. ये वो वजह है. So you now have to keep this in mind that this fluctuation in encephalopathy grades between the same patient depends on a lot of things, but largely related to the edema. I wouldn't spend a lot of time on pathogenesis anymore. Let's just focus on the precipient liver. हमें पता है कि it's not working, so the ammonia level has gone up, and that's primarily due to अगर hepatitis C है, hepatitis B है, हमने treat नहीं किया, so worsening liver disease, infection हो गया, GI bleed हो गया, TIPS is one of the factors. Inflammation is really, really important. आप में से वो लोग जिन्होंने मेरी इससे पहले talk ACLF की attend की हुई होगी, you may remember I presented you a paper where if your patient is child C serotic and if your patient is child A serotic, so there was a very nice study. They measured bacterial DNAs in those patients. The child A serotic patients, unme the levels were 3.8 of bacteria. These are those patients जिनमें infection नहीं थी, उनके CRP level raised नहीं थे. But the patients who have got child C cirrhosis, they have 30%. So the levels were 10 times more than child A. और वो होता क्यों है कि ये जो आपकी gut है, इसमें enterocytes they go spaced apart, permeability बढ़ जाती है. तो जो gut flora है, जो the gut microbiota that starts to translocate itself within from the bowel into the portosystemic circulation. So therefore endotoxin bacterial translocation that aggravates it. मैंने आपको अभी बताया कि अगर infection है, even slight level of cytokine, it leads to oxidative stress. Again, it will hamper the swelling of the brain. And our patient, if not permanently, temporarily will go into from grade 2 to grade 3. Okay. Muscle, abhi maine aapko bataya ki unfortunately muscle becomes the main factory of dealing with ammonia. So therefore you get sarcopenia. कुछ unfortunately हम लोग patients की खाना पीना भी बंद कर देते हैं, जो हमारी advice है, that's not appropriate, I think, particularly. So therefore they get even more malnourished. Malnourished पे मेरे पास 2 slides हैं. I really want to talk to you guys about this. Brain, What increases a cerebral blood flow? मैंने आपको अभी बताया कि बहुत ज्यादा अमोनिया इस वक्त ब्लड में पड़ा हुआ है. हमें ये भी पता है कि अमोनिया ऑस्मोटिकली एक्टिव है, क्रॉसेस द ब्लड ब्रेन बैरियर. अब तीसरी इंसल्ट ये होगी कि हर वो चीज जो इंक्रीज करेगी सेरिब्रल फ्लो को टुवर्ड्स brain will also take more levels of ammonia to the brain. Hyponatremia and dehydration, believe it or not, ये हमारे वो patients हैं जो डायूरेटिक्स पे होते हैं, जिनका हमने पानी बंद किया हुआ होता है. और I still remember a patient I saw in Pakistan, उसकी माँ उसको कोक के ढक्कन से उसमें पानी डाल डाल के पिलाती थी. वो कहती थी डॉक्टर साहब ने कहा इसने इससे ज्यादा 2 से 3 चुस्कियों से ज्यादा नहीं लेनी. And imagine what the dehydration does to encephalopathy. Okay, and lastly, of course, kidneys. We know that any change in the renal substance will cause this, diuretics being the largest. Okay, now you might think, why am I showing you these grades? You know it very well. इसकी 2 वजह हैं. Number 1, आप लोग एक grade 1 है और दूसरा ग्रेड 2 टू ग्रेड 4 है. मैं इसको हमेशा क्लास इस तरह करता होता हूं कि एक ग्रेड 1 है विच इज अ मिनिमल एन्केफेलोपैथी और एक ग्रेड 2 टू ग्रेड 4 है विच इज ओवर्ट एन्केफेलोपैथी. अच्छा, मैं आपको ये बता क्यों रहा हूं, 2 वजह. नंबर 1, ग्रेड 1 वी इंक्लूडिंग माई सेल्फ आर वेरी पुअर एट पिकिंग अप. हम डायग्नोज ही नहीं कर पाते हैं पेशेंट में एन्केफेलोपैथी बिकॉज उनको इतनी मिनिमल होती है कि they won't show the signs unless you and I ask for it. Well, how do I ask for it? बहुत सिंपल सवाल होते हैं. आप उनसे ये पूछें कि क्या आप चीजें अब आपको भूलना शुरू हो गई हैं, छोटी छोटी, क्या बात करते करते रुक जाते हैं. घर वालों से पूछें कि ये लाउंज से निकल के किचन में जाते हैं, रास्ता भूल जाते हैं. अच्छा, समटाइम्स अर्ली स्लीप डिस्टर्बेंसेस, कि डॉक्टर साहब मैं ना, मेरी बस नींद को कुछ हो गया, मैं अब उस तरह सो नहीं पाता, जल्दी उठ जाता हूँ, सुबह ही मेरी आंख खुल जाती है, कोई मुझे समझ भी नहीं आती मैं क्यों उठ गया हूँ. सो दैट दीज आर वेरी. अच्छा, मैं इसको कंफर्म कैसे करूं? साइकोमेट्रिक टेस्ट नहीं है आपके पास, ना करो. बहुत सिंपल आपको टेस्ट बताता हूँ. एंड आई एक्चुअली डू दिस ऑन माय पेशेंट्स इन द क्लिनिक. इट टेक्स 1 मिनट. हाउ? आप उससे सिर्फ ये कहो कि आप 100 से पीछे की तरफ गिनती शुरू करो और एवरी टाइम 7 माइनस करते जाओ. पहले उसको बता दो कि पहला मैं आपको बता देता हूँ 93 या 93, अब बाकी 7 आप निकालें. अच्छा, मेरे से मैं ये करता था तो मुझे किसी ने कहा कि जी अगर बंदा पढ़ा लिखा ही नहीं है तो क्या करेगा? एंड दैट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो आस्क हिम कि आपके बच्चे कितने, और छोटे बच्चे से बड़े बच्चे तक के आप नाम बताइए मुझे, और जो साथ घर वाला बैठा हुआ है उससे आप पूछ सकते हैं. एंड दीज आर वेरी सिंपल थिंग्स. अच्छा, व्हाई इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट? ग्रेड 1 से ग्रेड 2 में वो हमारे पेशेंट्स जो इस पे पकड़े जाएंगे और हम उनको ट्रीट करेंगे, उनकी आउटकम बहुत डिफरेंट है उन पेशेंट से जो ग्रेड 2, ग्रेड 3 और ग्रेड 4 में है. नंबर 2, अगर आपको ट्रांसप्लांट के लिए जाना पड़ता है, a better treated encephalopathy patient has got much better cerebral or cognitive outcomes after transplant than the otherwise. मेरे पास अभी ट्रांसप्लांट की एक स्लाइड है, I'll show you very quickly. Okay, what are the patterns? मिनिमल एचई पे हमने भी बात की है. The more important जो मैं और आप देखते हैं वो persistent है और एपिसोडिक है. एपिसोडिक क्या है कि पेशेंट आया, ब्रेन स्वेलिंग वर्स हुई, उसको ग्रेड 3, ग्रेड 4 में गया, आपने ट्रीट किया, वो इंप्रूव हुआ, वो घर चला गया, उसके बाद वो फिर मोस्ट कॉमनली हम ये देखते हैं. जो persistent एचई है, chronic, that's rather untreatable if you like. If it becomes chronic, it's all the time there, it's very difficult to actually reverse that one. But patterns ko zehn mein rakho, kyunki that is important how you can manage these patients. It's just one slide on liver transplant. ये liver transplant की talk नहीं है, but there are certain points जो मैं चाहता था कि मैं आप लोगों से share करूं. Recognize करें please, क्योंकि जितना इंपॉर्टेंट पेशेंट को पैलिएटिव केयर पे मैनेज करना है ना, उतना ही इंपॉर्टेंट है पेशेंट को अर्ली ऑन ट्रांसप्लांट के लिए रेफर करना. और अगर ट्रांसप्लांटेबल पेशेंट है तो कैरीज ऑन विद द ट्रांसप्लांट. एंड इफ नॉट अ ट्रांसप्लांट पेशेंट, ही कम्स बैक टू यू, देन you just manage the symptoms, and very early on you've actually made a difference to this patient's outcome. मैं कोशिश ये कर रहा हूँ कि I don't know whether डॉक्टर आरिफ या डॉक्टर नुमान जाकिर फ्रॉम PKLI और Prof Kashif Malik from Sheikh Zayed, what I'm trying to do, that we may be able to develop a referral form or a referral criteria, particularly उन लोगों के लिए जो रूरल हेल्थ सेंटर्स में बैठे हैं, जो दूर बैठे हैं लाहौर से और इन जगहों से, so that they can just look at that form, see ये condition उनके पेट वो टिक कर सकते हैं, and they refer for transplant. Either there's a virtual assessment and that's all afterwards. Let's come back to this. ये देखो जो मैंने आपको बताया, functional brain changes after liver transplant depend on pre-transplant cognitive impairment. Encephalopathy is reversible. Please, if we don't treat it properly, patient then gets damage which could potentially be permanent. So I think, और अभी मैंने आपको बताया कि अगर बहुत delayed आप patient को refer करोगे, तो actually even if you do the transplant, his cognitive impairment may not return to normal. High risk, poor outcome, diabetes, vascular disease, hypertension, ischemic heart. So you may want to refer these patients early. Overt hepatic encephalopathy is a decompensated episode. इसका क्या मतलब है? मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया कि अगर आपके पास पेशेंट आ गया है जिसकी grade 2, grade 3, grade 4 in particular encephalopathy proven हो गई है, start thinking about transplant. Don't send this patient home thinking he'll get better and he will improve. No, he will not. This is an indication that you now start to think about transplant. और actually encephalopathy के साथ काफी centers हैं जो MELD score को इतना ज़्यादा bother नहीं करते. If the patient can afford the transplant, if the patient body can afford the transplant, if the donor is available, then I think we should go for it. Because once encephalopathy sets in, by definition, is a decompensation, and the mortality outcome within 1 year is actually quite high as compared to decompensated without encephalopathy in a similar sort of child's C-scoring system. Okay, so yeah, that's all I wanted to say really. Okay, now coming back to the treatment, of course that's important, that's what we want to talk about. इस सारे talk में जो further 15 minutes हैं वो we will spend on outpatient care, क्योंकि ये वो area है जहाँ पे मुझे लगता है कि हम लोग as hepatologists, as a gastroenterologist or as general physicians, we don't do very well with encephalopathy. दूसरी हम बात करेंगे hospital inpatient और तीसरी हम बात करेंगे home care पे, because I think there is a lot that we can do in outpatient before our patient hits here. And even if the patient hits here, we could quickly move between here and here. And I'll show you in a minute. Acha, first line therapy outpatient care में is lactulose. इसमें कोई rocket science नहीं है, हम सबको पता है, हम सब Duflag prescribe करते हैं. And we do that very happily. But I want to share something if you allow me to. Why? मैं सिर्फ 30 seconds में आपको lactulose का mechanism बताना चाहता हूँ. और क्यों बताना चाहता हूँ? क्योंकि in an ideal world, I do not want you to stop the lactulose if patient's having problem. And why? I'll show you in a minute. अच्छा, हमने जब patient को lactulose देते हैं, so lactulose is a non-absorbable sugars. The good thing about lactulose is it doesn't get fragmented either in the stomach or in the small intestine. It reaches straight into the large bowel. Large bowel में bacterial translocations के through, bacterial functions के through, it gets broken into 4 osmotically active H-ion, acetic acid, formic acid, and lactic acids. So therefore, the environment become much acidotic. इसका मतलब क्या होता है? As soon as the environment becomes acidotic, it will draw more water in. When you get water drawn in, not only that you increase the distensibility of the bowel, you actually increase the volume of the stools as well. So the stool becomes softened and it's easily go out. So that's how we actually help our patient clear a bowel, reduce the nitrogenous load, if you like. Okay. What is the other mechanism? Abhi humne aapko bataya कि there is a lot of ammonia which is now going around. NH3 is osmotically active. It can go anywhere. But look, H plus ions are freely available now that you've given your patient lactulose within the bowel, and therefore it will combine and form into NH4. NH4 का फायदा आपको क्या हुआ कि that is actually non-absorbable. ये अब bowel से बाहर नहीं निकल सकता. It can't go into the bloodstream. So therefore it has to come out. By doing this, we have now reduced the ammonia load of the patient. So therefore the encephalopathy improves. ये वो वजह है जिसकी वजह से मैं अगर आपके patient को डायरिया या साइड इफेक्ट्स हो रहे हैं तो आप फिर भी ये कोशिश करो कि आप उसको ये कहो कि आप don't take 20-30 meals 4 times a day. Even take 5 to 10 mils once a day, but see if you can. And of course, if he's getting dehydrated, there's a torrential amount of diarrhea, then you will stop it. But now you know the two main reasons why you need lactulose. अच्छा, दूसरी चीज ना, मैंने ये एक्सपीरियंस किया है कि अगर आप पेशेंट्स को ये बता दो देने से पहले और केयरर्स को कि इसके क्या पॉसिबल साइड इफेक्ट्स, लाइक स्वीट टेस्ट, you will get sweet taste, you'll get bloating, गैस बहुत बनती है डॉक्टर साहब, आप उनको पहले बता दो कि this is very likely going to happen. इसको मैंने ट्रीट कैसे करना है, उनसे कहीं खाने के साथ न ले. We know that whenever they eat food, they're going to be more gaseous exchange, going to be more bloating. So give at least an hour or a couple of hours between eating their food and lactulose. A very small tip, but it's very helpful. Okay, PEG and enema, it works. अगर आपका पेशेंट लैक्टुलोज के साथ लोड को कम नहीं कर पा रहा है, so even if you've given 5 or 10 mils, then at least you can give the enema from here and clear the nitrogenous load from there, and it works. Second line therapy, मैंने lactulose भी दे दिया, मैं enema भी दे रहा हूँ, it's not working. What do I do next? Well, antibiotics, rifaximin, you can use it. Does it work? Yes, we will explain that in a minute. You can also use Lola, although I think it's not very frequently available. There is some diagnosis, some evidence for zinc sulfates. Again, you can use it. The evidence is rather patchy, to be honest. Although in refractory encephalopathy, I have prescribed on 2 patients, and one of them have noticed significant differences. You can also use what we know as branch chain amino acids. जो मेरे ख्याल है पाकिस्तान में silver Hapamers के नाम से आती है, उसमें जो amount है वो बहुत कम होती है. So please make sure that the amount given is right, not the pharmacological advertised dose. Okay, क्या rifaximin मुझे देनी चाहिए? क्या rifaximin helpful है? Or does it actually make a difference? Well, actually the answer is yes. When do I start rifaximin? Once your patient has come for the first encephalopathy episode, which is grade 3 or grade 4, I usually start it there and then. Because uski wajah, patients are from far-flung areas. You may not actually see them when they come to your hospital or your clinic. And they keep on suffering in their own villages, in their own tehsils, and you may not ever see them. But if it's grade 3 and grade 4, if it's grade 1 or grade 2, you can carry on with lactulose. Not much evidence for rifaximin. However, if grade 1 and grade 2 required second admission, then I started on the second admission. More than 90% of the patients should actually take lactulose. And look at this evidence, very, very convincing. अगर आप 4 में से 4 लोगों को treat करोगे, तो for every 4 patients you start on rifaximin, you will improve at least 1 patient with significant outcomes or improvement in the quality of life as well as symptoms. Similarly, हमारे पास कितने government hospitals में हम देखते हैं encephalopathy के patients बार-बार आते हैं. This study was actually done purely to see whether adding rifaximin to lactulose will make a difference. The answer is yes, it would. 0.3 to more than 50% relative risk reduction in admissions of patients who were started on rifaximin. So please, as I said, grade 1, grade 2, wait for second admission to start rifaximin. Grade 3, grade 4, you can start it on the first admission, particularly if they are from far-flung areas. Now the patient's in the hospital. Ab aap kya karoge? Assess their hydration. Please, I cannot emphasize, your patient, you might think that they've got thumping JVP, you might think they've got large volume ascites, you might think they're fluid overload, they're actually not. Look at their tongue. The tongue will still be dry. Look at their numbers. Their urea may be high. Now you might think the urea is normal, but of course it's normal. लेकिन उसका वो urea देखिए जो इससे पहले, क्योंकि जो liver disease है, particularly जो malnourished patient होते हैं, इनमें urea नीचे चला जाता है. If one of the ways you look at diuretics को stop कीजिए, correct electrolytes, particularly if they're hyponatremia or if they've got hyperkalemia. They both draw very quick shift across the blood-brain barrier and enhance the cerebral edema very, very quickly. You can give IV fluids, preferable albumin hai, but it's expensive. I realize this, and I don't push people to do it as long as there is some fluid. Acha, normal saline, to just quickly before I forget, if you do want to give normal saline, you can. Just be careful. If the sodium is less than 0.25, then do not start at 4 hourly rate or 2 hourly rate for a liter of saline. Give very, very slow. And by slow means really, really slow. Encourage patient to have oral. Again, and I'll explain this. अगर NG में भी है या वो पी सकता है तो उसको oral intake पे encourage कीजिए rather than on IV fluids for the patient whose sodium is very, very low. Because then you'll have much more space to have this shift coming back slowly rather than very fast. Malnutrition and hepatic encephalopathy. This is really, really striking feature. Or आप यकीन करो कि there is no evidence of protein restriction. Patients का खाना पीना बंद ना करें. ये अल्ताफ साहब ने भी आप लोगों को बताया था पिछली टॉक में, बार-बार हमारा फोकस है ये. And there are several reasons why patients are actually malnourished. You can clearly have reduced food, reduced calorie intake. Patients का दिल भी नहीं करता खाने का. ऊपर से हम उन पर restrictions भी लगाते हैं. Bile acid deficiency होती है because liver is not working. They get cholestasis. Impaired glucose metabolism. And this is very important really. अगर मैं और आप सोते हैं ना, तो equally अगर liver disease, even child B patient, cirrhotic भी अगर सो रहा है आपके साथ, so he has actually done fast for 3 days. So a 12-hour fast of a liver disease patient is equal to your and mine 3 days. That's huge. आप 3 दिन का रोजा रख के देखें, you will actually feel you won't be able to work or perform anything at all. And this is how serious this is. This is why we always say a nocturnal meal, and I'll talk about that in a minute. तो अब पेशेंट मेरे पास हॉस्पिटल में आ गया, मैंने उसका फ्लूइड भी दे दिया, I've started the treatment, he is not getting better. I put NG tube day 1. If it's a day 1 patient isn't improving, I ask my dietitian to come and see them, and we put NG tube and we start NG feed because of 2 things. I can give medicines, I can give hydration, which is much more than an IV, and third thing is of course the nutrition. And then all the liver units, I'll encourage you guys to have a very set standard of if you put NG, then on the day 1 it's 25 kilocalories, day 2 30, and day 3 you've gone to 35 to 40 kilocalories per kilogram of the body weight. मैंने carers को क्या advice देनी? Patient ठीक हो गया, अब घर चला गया. Now we start to move towards home care. अब आखिर वो जो patient घर जाता है, उसको भी तो आपने कोई advice दे के भेजना ना कि वो how is he going to look after nutrition? Okay, so protein intake आपने कम नहीं करनी. वो कहते हैं जी गरीब है, बड़ा गोश्त बिल्कुल नहीं खाना, छोटा गोश्त भी नहीं खाना, chicken भी नहीं खाना. And okay, fine. I actually don't think white meat is that bad, and I don't think the disadvantages are huge. You can have white meat. So that's not a major problem. I don't even think even red meat is a major issue. Of course, you don't have to have it every day. How else? मैं तो गरीब हूँ, मैं तो afford नहीं कर सकता. मटर, हरे मटर, चने, लोबिया, simple beans, they are fine. आप उबाल के दे सकते हैं. अच्छा, शकरकंदी, रात को सोने से पहले एक शकरकंदी वो खा सकता है. There's nothing wrong about that really. Sugars, high sugars avoid करें. What else can you take? रात को कोशिश करें कि उनको ये कहें कि इनको रात को जब ये सोने लगे तो इनको कुछ थोड़ा सा खाने को दें. अगर डायबिटिक नहीं है तो 2 बिस्किट खा लें, बेशक आधे कप दूध के साथ. That's fine. Yogurt is fine. Custard is fine. And dalia is fine. कोशिश करें कि complex carbohydrates पे ज़्यादा जोर दें as compared to readily available carbohydrates. And the complex carbohydrates I've just said to you, they are peas, green peas, chickpeas. These are all complex carbohydrates. The patient can have nuts, that's not a problem. But the diet should be balanced. And I get asked this time and time again, a patient को हमने NG डाली थी, वो ठीक हो गया. अब हम उसको घर भेज दें. Okay, the answer is no. Please don't do that. And there is only one condition when you send patient home on NG feed, and I'll talk about this in a minute. अक्सर ट्रेनिंग से ये बात पूछते हैं, please do not send patient home on NG feed, and I tell you why. देखो मैंने आपको बताया कि patient के muscles use होना शुरू होते हैं. सबसे पहले it's the muscle of swallowing that actually goes, and you might notice this very clearly. जब पेशेंट को आप NG के साथ घर भेजते हो, the risk you don't even know the NG has been misplaced, move कर गई है, and what you're feeding is going into the lungs. Number 1, high risk of infection. There's no doubt about it. इवन अगर वो मूव नहीं भी की है तो लोग हाथ से सहारा दे के, एंड आई हैव सीन दिस ऑल, और वो उनको फीड करते हैं एंड दे गेट एस्पिरेशन. सो NG feed is a big no for liver disease patients. They should not go home on this. Okay, PEG. Personally, I will not put a PEG in a patient with liver disease who particularly is decompensated, and for several reasons. The life expectancy is very short. PEG isn't going to make a huge difference. These are live scenarios. People have asked me this. That's why I'm telling you. Dusra, they usually have portal hypertension. They have ascites. They have varices. So endoscopic PEG placement, even surgical. Either way, don't put the PEG in liver disease patients. So NG tube or PEG patient shouldn't have it. They shouldn't go home. Okay. What else do I need to do in home care? आपने पेशेंट को लेक्चुलोज की उसके केयर को एजुकेट करके भेजना कि आपने लेक्चुलोज की अमाउंट को बढ़ाते रहना है, कम करते रहना है. गो फॉर 2 to 3 stools a day. If patient become more encephalopathic, उसकी नेक्स्ट डोज को आप बढ़ा दो. There is no harm. रिकरेंट है, रिफेक्सिमिन शुरू कर दीजिए. फ्लूइड्स को रिस्ट्रिक्ट मत करो, प्लीज डोंट. एंड इट्स नॉट हार्मफुल. अगर आपके पेशेंट को चाइल्ड सी वेरी लार्ज एसाइटिस भी है तब भी ही कैन हैव a liter to liter and a half of water a day. It's not end of the world as long as you're able to manage his ascites either with diuretics or with large volume paracentesis. It's entirely up to you. लेकिन fluid restrict मत करो because that is going to make a significant impact on the outcome. Encourage mobility. Patient को कहिए, relatives को कहिए कि उनको मरीजों को बेड पे लेटा. हमारे एक कल्चर में ना खिदमत बहुत ज्यादा वो है कि वो हम पेशेंट बिल्कुल बेड रिडन हो जाता है एंड वी ऑल ट्राई टू स्पेंड टाइम उनको दबाने में और खिदमत करने. दैट्स नॉट एक्चुअली द ट्रू कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ खिदमत. द ट्रू कॉन्सेप्ट इज दैट यू एक्चुअली encourage them to look after themselves and you look after them as well. And so what I want is the fact कि उनको आपने encourage करना है कि वो अगर वो बेड में कम से कम उठ के बैठे, टांगे लटका के नीचे बैठे, दिन में 8 से 10 दफा ये करें, बेड से बाहर निकल के चेयर में बैठ जाएं, अपने लाउंज तक चले जाएं. अगर बहुत ज्यादा गर्मी है, घर से नहीं बाहर आना चाहते, दैट्स फाइन, बट सम काइंड ऑफ व्हाई. एंड I've just told you the reason of sarcopenia. They need muscle build up. The more the muscle will get built up, the more oxygen it will get, will reduce the oxidative stress. Okay, it will ask for more nutrition and that will try and reverse what we call is this vicious cycle. Last time भी मैंने आप लोगों को ये कहा था, particularly वो लोग आप लोगों में से जो अपना क्लिनिक करते हो शाम को, जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट हॉस्पिटल्स में बैठते हो, तहसील में, एक कंपाउंडर या एक नर्स या एक ऐसे आदमी को जिसको आप समझते हो कि he is well trained now, develop a support line. Patients को अपना एक support number दो. Right? Don't ask them to bring him to hospital every time he becomes drowsy. Ask them to ring that number. और क्यों? आपका कंपाउंडर या आपका वो ट्रेन्ड स्टाफ उनके घर जाके उनको एनिमा दे सकता है. And that be everything required. घर वालों को एनिमा देने के लिए ना कहो. It's not nice. इसमें पेशेंट्स का भी पर्देदारी होती है and sometimes relatives may not feel, बेटा या बेटी may not feel comfortable to do that. So if you run your own practice, then I think it's very reasonable to give them a number. And lastly, home care for encephalopathy. Please make sure that they nurse at 45. What does this mean? उनसे कहें कि हेड एंड पे, बेड के हेड एंड पे 2 ईंटें रख दो ताकि बेड ऊपर हो जाए, और कोशिश ये करो कि जब वो लेटें भी तो 2 तकिए हो नीचे, और जब वो कुछ खाने या पीने लगे तो उनको 45 डिग्रीज पे होना चाहिए. And they must remain at 45 degrees for at least 20 minutes after eating, if not half an hour before they go back to lying flat. And even that's not a lying flat, that's 2 pillows. Please don't forget, this is very important. मैंने आपको बताया, muscles of deglutition are gone. So they are very high risk of aspirations. What about persistent or grade 4 HE? Home versus hospital care. क्या इन मरीजों को मैं घर में लुक आफ्टर करूं या इन मरीजों को मैं हॉस्पिटल में लुक, और ये मैं डिसीजन कैसे करूंगा? ओके, सो 3 very important things. If it's a young patient, if it's an unexpected event, and third thing, if there's a poor social support, then I would encourage you to keep these patients at hospital and let them pass away in hospital. Don't send them home, because that will be detrimental for patients, disastrous for your relatives as well. So don't do this. I think it really is very important, particularly if they're not a transplant candidate and they are ACLF3. I think ये तीन criteria please ध्यान में रखो. I would encourage you to manage them in hospital. अच्छा, अगर घर वो लेके जाना चाहते हैं, then be supportive of it. डॉक्टर साहब हम इनको घर, that's fine. ये वो situation है जिसमें you can put a large NG inside the patient, but that's not for feeding. That's all if the patient is having GI bleed. और वो सिर्फ वो करेंगे क्या? क्योंकि dying with the blood pouring out of your mouth into your bed sheet in front of you is not nice. Honestly, it's not nice place to be in. So put the NG tube, और किसी भी समझदार रिश्तेदार को ये बता दें कि जो बैग में ब्लड आएगा उसको आपने every half an hour to an hour सारे रिश्तेदारों से बाहर कमरे से निकाल के उसको खाली करके आप बैग दोबारा लगा दें. Because when it's reached this point, you're really looking at death in 2 to 3 days. Bear that in mind and prepare the relatives for it. Pain and agitation, yes, it is. How do we control symptoms of pain as well as agitation? अच्छा देखो, this is the last slide, guys. Pain is multifactorial in liver disease. डॉक्टर साहब मेरा इन्ना जिस्म टूटदा है ना, मेरे तो बैठे जांदा है, मेरा पुत्र सारा सारा दिन मेरी लतां दबांदा है. That guy is not faking, he is right. We have to listen to him. मैंने अभी आपको बताया कि उसके muscles are actively metabolizing, dying if you like, to try and deal with the ammonia levels. So therefore he is not wrong. दूसरा problem क्या है? जो pain होता है ना, that accelerates through IL pathways as well as increases oxidative stress, therefore increasing encephalopathy worse. मैंने अभी आपको बताया कि one of the mechanisms जिसकी वजह से brain swelling बढ़ती है, that's down to the cytokine mediated pathways, increased oxidative stress. And we know now that pain or pain pathways, they also stimulate these pathways as well. So therefore, particularly वो patient जो grade 3 या grade 4 encephalopathy में, जब वो pain में होते हैं, they become more agitated. How do we treat? You can start them on morphine. You can start at 2 milligram. We've discussed this, but remember it metabolizes in the liver. You can also use syringe driver. Perhaps the dose is less of an importance in somebody who's really comatose in the last 3 to 4 days of his life, but bear that in mind. Tramadol is not my favorite for liver disease, I have to say, because this is all metabolized through the liver. But again, अगर आपका patient, और दूसरा benefit tramadol का ये है कि it comes in a syrup form. So you could actually have a 5 ml syringe and you can just put it in the buccal cavity and 1 or 2 ml after every 5 minutes so that it get absorbed rather than giving the whole 5 ml together. So you can give tramadol, but half the dose. So 50 milligram 4 times a day ke bajaye, or 50 milligrams twice a day kar do. Lorazepam, you can use lorazepam. Actually, very half-life is very short. But again, there are some concerns regarding worsening HE in child C. But clearly, you are using it at the very, very far end. Midazolam is fine. You can use it. And yes, of course, it also gets metabolized in the liver, but not all of it, not as much as tramadol or morphine. So I think it's reasonable. Midazolam, by and large, is safe. The other thing about midazolam is that you can also put it in a syringe driver, and you can give it subcut as well. It doesn't have to be small butterfly. उनकी आम पे पेशेंट के आप लगा सकते हो, और ये आपका होम केयर पे जो भी ट्रेंड बंदा है आपके यूनिट से, he can go, he can ask the family, or family can ring him that look, he gets very irritable at night, he gets agitated. That's fine. Just have a 2 milligram midazolam subcut you can give before night. That's fine. Haloperidol is something that increasingly used agitation. We use it very often. Our palliative care team hai, they actually sometimes just put this in the mix of syringe driver that they start for end days of life. You can start with a small dose. Again, there's a limited data about this. You use cautiously, but don't forget that this is your patient with the end days of life, and you can manage them by doing all these small things. So this is about largely about the medications that you can use in your patients whilst they're at home or dying in the hospital. I think that's done. I'll take questions now, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Farooq. Asad here. Yet again, a wonderful talk. दो सवाल हैं chat में, and then I'm sure we will be having time for more questions. एक सवाल ये है कि should we prescribe lactulose in same doses to diabetic patients? ये बहुत commonly पूछा जाता है जी, उसको तो इतना मीठा शरबत है, शुगर आसमाना पे चली गई है, और as it's non-absorbable, so should we counsel our diabetic patient that it's absolutely safe for them too?
Yes.
जी फारूक.
So मैंने आपको पता है lactulose से पहले एक word use किया था, non-absorbable disaccharide. आपको अच्छा अभी मैं एक नई बात शुरू हो जाएगी. आपको पता है कि जितनी डायबिटीज का ट्रीटमेंट आजकल हम फोकस कर रहे हैं, वो हम कर रहे हैं एंडोस्कोपिकली इनटू द ड्यूडेनम, D3 and D4, because this is where all your GLP-1s and why. अभी मैंने आपको बताया है कि स्टमक में और स्मॉल बाउल में ये एब्जॉर्ब ही नहीं होती. So ये concept, it doesn't make sense कि मैंने lecture, it's a non-absorbable disaccharide that it will increase your sugars and make it havoc. ये important है, इसीलिए मैंने आपसे कहा कि पेशेंट को एजुकेट करो कि उसका टेस्ट बहुत मीठा होगा, उससे गैस बहुत बनेगी, उससे टटियां लग सकती हैं, उससे डिहाइड्रेशन, उससे ये वो चीजें जिनको उन्होंने वो करना एड्रेस.
जी, next question is how many sedatives and analgesics can be given together at the same time? पाकिस्तान में मॉर्फिन अवेलेबल नहीं है. हमारे पास ट्रेमाडोल फ्रीली अवेलेबल है, हमारे पास मिडाजोलैम फ्रीली अवेलेबल है और हेलोपेरिडोल फ्रीली अवेलेबल है. आई एम नॉट श्योर अबाउट लोराज़ेपाम, मे बी ज़ीशान कैन मेक मी वाइज है. जी फारूक, तो इनका कॉकटेल बनाने के बारे में आप क्या कहते हैं?
So I don't think there's any significant drawbacks or disasters to any. Midazolam can be mixed with haloperidol, that's not a problem. Usually prescribed जो cocktail है, हमारी जो palliative team start करती है आके, that's morphine, midazolam, haloperidol and chlorpromazine for respiratory tract secretion. So midazolam, haloperidol, they can be given together. अगर आप लोगों के पास tramadol है, तो tramadol आप दे सकते हो as a pain control, that is fine. Orally अगर patient ले रहा है, and I don't think कि it will be a huge of a problem अगर वो उसके साथ उस painkiller के साथ if he is taking anything else as well.
Tramadol की maximum dose भी बता दें, फिर मैं अगले सवाल पे जाता हूं.
So yes, I think the maximum dose is 50 BD as far as I am concerned for liver disease patients. लेकिन to be honest, मैंने 50 milligrams 3 times a day भी दी हुई है लोगों को. Don't let them in pain. मैं बार-बार ये कहता हूँ, don't let them in pain. They can have it. These are the patients that you're dealing at very right end of their life.
मेरे ख्याल में यहाँ पे एक मैसेज बड़ा क्लियर होना चाहिए कि we have to make them comfortable in their last days and hours. So dose matter नहीं करती. फारूक, अगला सवाल ये, अगर पेशेंट को पहले स्टूल्स आ रहे हैं, वो 2 से 3 पखाने कर रहा है, आप फिर भी लैक्टुलोज देंगे?
Yes. So, okay, there's a difference between number of stools and type of stools. So what is important here is he doing 2 to 3 type 7 watery stools, or is he actually doing well-formed 2 to 3 stools and still being encephalopathic? Okay. So if it is well-formed stools or hard stools, and if it's 2 to 3 times a day, I don't think there's anything wrong by giving carry on lactulose. Lactulose का मकसद, मैंने इसीलिए particularly I spend 2-3 minutes on the mechanism. The idea is not just to make patient pass stools. The idea is to change the environment metabolically active, so the ammonia becomes NH4, so it doesn't get reabsorbed. मेरी कोशिश वैसे ये होती है कि मैं अगर 5 mils भी दे सकूं ना lactulose के, तो मैं किसी न किसी सूरत में उसको जारी रखूं. However, I completely accept. On the other hand, आपका पेशेंट है, उसको 2 to 3 या 3 to 4 times watery stools हो रहे हैं, और वो अच्छा कुछ पेशेंट ऐसे होते भी हैं कि उनको जैसे ही वो lactulose लेते हैं तो उनको they get torrential amount of diarrhea. ऐसे पेशेंट्स को आप वेट ना करो, इनको rifaximin शुरू कर दो. These patients should not get admitted twice before they get rifaximin. You can actually start rifaximin at an early stage.
जी फारूक, एक और क्वेश्चन है अबाउट ड्यूरेशन ऑफ रेफेक्सिमिन। आपने ग्रेड 3 में आपने कहा जी मैंने अप फ्रंट शुरू कर दी, और अब आप उसको बंद कब करेंगे?
नहीं करूंगा. If it's why do I want to band it? There is no reason to band it. If it is helping him, okay. You may ask, well, if it's not helping him, he was in grade 3 and he's now moved into grade 4. Okay, and that's a point. I'm more than happy to reevaluate the patient, but there is no need, there is no guidelines के आपने अगर rifaximin शुरू किया वो 2 हफ्ते के बाद आपने बंद करनी है. You can carry on long term, that's fine.
There's another question about hepatic encephalopathy is being caused by viral hepatitis in a 46 years old male. What is the prognosis?
That's so I suspect this is acute encephalopathy you're talking about, in which case the prognosis is of course down to liver transplant, no matter what has caused acute liver failure. I guess if I understood, I can't fully see the question.
Okay. एक सिमिलर क्वेश्चन है कि how long can we use rifaximin? आपने जवाब दे दिया. It's expensive in Pakistan, unfortunately. I don't know, but Farooq Khan can comment here.
Yes, so no, that's I think this is absolutely right. अगर ये help नहीं कर रही और ये महंगी है, I'm more than happy for you to try a different end. मैंने इसीलिए आपको neomycin और metronidazole का भी evidence दिखाया. लेकिन neomycin as well as metronidazole ये long term नहीं है. I would suggest कि आप इनको forever मत दो. अगर rifaximin work नहीं कर रही और वो बहुत heavy है, then clearly your patient is grade 3, grade 4. And I think we're talking end days of life, aren't we? Rifaximin isn't really going to help. So you can stop it. Of course, there's no point spending money.
एक और क्वेश्चन है, quickly if you can go through on the management in ICU, और इसी में आप आंसर कर सकते हैं कि क्या मैनिटॉल का कोई रोल है ICU में?
So acute, yes. So in acute, you do use it, and the remit of the talk was an acute liver failure, really. So hence, if you guys want, we can talk about this. But for अच्छा, अगर आप palliative point of view से देखना चाहते हो, so I don't think there's any role of mannitol. The patient is going to die, really. If you can't transplant him in acute liver failure and the stage has reached whereby he's not a transplantable, he's got fulminant liver failure and he's dying, then of course mannitol wouldn't help. But mannitol can be used, it buys time before the transplant, it can reduce intracranial pressures, of course. In acute liver failure.
और रोल ऑफ ब्रांच चेन अमाइनो एसिड यहाँ पे बहुत ज्यादा प्रमोट किए जाते हैं. लोला भी है और उसके तो शरबत भी अवेलेबल हैं और बहुत सारी कंपनीज हैं मार्केट में, और आईवी भी अवेलेबल है जो जिसकी डोज 10 ग्राम्स है, 20 ग्राम्स अ डे इन टर्म्स ऑफ एक्यूट सेटिंग. और ब्रांच चेन अमाइनो एसिड भी यहाँ पे उसके पाउडर भी अवेलेबल हैं, उसका आईवी इन्फ्यूजन भी अवेलेबल है. Do you have any comment on that?
So BCCAs are helpful. They are actually in EASL guidelines, guys. So ऐसा नहीं है कि branch chain amino acids का कोई evidence नहीं है. They are useless. They are, but they are useful when you give them in the right amount of dose. मैंने जैसे जो Hepamers वगैरह उसमें micrograms is not going to do anything at all. और अच्छा, एक और भी चीज हम लोग बहुत कॉमन देखते हैं कि कोई acute liver failure या abnormal LFTs के साथ भी patient आ जाता है, तो उसको Hepamers शुरू करवा दिया जाता है. Again, that has absolutely no. Branch chain amino acids are only helpful when there's a set in decompensated liver disease, when there is when you need it. It hasn't got any role in abnormal LFTs. Zishan, I think, has got a question.
जी Zishan, please.
Asad, I just want to, ये थोड़ा सा miscommunication जा रही है, probably he's Farooq not practicing it. The brand Hepamers is Lola and aminoliban is the branch chain amino acid. Again, I agree with Farooq कि जो सिरप promote होता है acute hepatitis में, cirrhosis में, और it's very minimal dose, few milligrams. जो Lola therapy की dose है, that is 20 grams, and that comes with the ampules and the sachet which is given. कि just थोड़ा बहुत data है, that is anecdotal data जो EASL guidelines में अभी थोड़ा बहुत लोला थेरेपी के ऊपर सपोर्टिव दिया है. इट्स नॉट वेरी स्ट्रांगली रिकमेंडेड, लेकिन सपोर्टिव थेरेपी दोज नॉट रिस्पॉन्डिंग टू स्टैंडर्ड थेरेपी, उसमें एड ऑन में ब्रांचियन अमीनो एसिड और लोला थेरेपी का जिक्र आया है. तो वो डोज जो है वो दैट डज नॉट मीट विद द सिरप अवेलेबल ऑफ द हेपामर्स. बाकी जो अमाइनोलिबैन है, अगेन अमाइनोलिबैन आईवी in my experience what I have seen again as a second or third line therapy in sarcopenic patient does help. ये जो हमारे लिए सब्जियों वाले पेशेंट होते हैं ना, जो कि सारे मोहल्ले वाले और सारे जो है ना रिश्तेदार मिला के इनको लिवर डिजीज हो गई, इनको भी सब्जियां खिलाओ, those are the patient which I have seen does get better, कि उनको एटलीस्ट कुछ प्रोटीन मिलती है इस बहाने. they are not giving anything, but by and large I agree with most of it.
It builds up the muscle mass. It helps build up the muscle mass. It definitely helps build up the muscle mass.
जी जी फारूक,
कुछ क्वेश्चन जो मैं देख रहा था,
जी जी
कुछ क्वेश्चन जो मैं फॉलो कर रहा था, some of them were not contextual with the palliative care, it was more contextual with general hepatic encephalopathy care. तो वो भी देखिएगा. फारूक के जो क्वेश्चन पर्टिकुलरली सेडेटिव से रिलेटेड थे, that was specifically contextual to the palliative care patients. तो जो कुछ कंसर्न he did mention very effectively कि अगर आप पैलिएटिव केयर, आउटसाइड पैलिएटिव केयर अगर आप देख रहे हैं तो उसमें आंसर शायद थोड़े से डिफरेंट हो, बट इन ए पैलिएटिव केयर लुक इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट एज वेल.
जी फारूक, एक और क्वेश्चन है कि रेफेक्सिमिन इज यूजुअली रिकमेंडेड इन 550 milligram BD. So what about 200 milligram BD, which is also available? Does this work?
So the honest answer is I don't know. There are no trials being done. We always use 550. I don't even know who has introduced 200 and why. It's always been 550. यही डोज है, इसी पे ट्रायल्स हुए हैं सारे.
जी अल्ताफ साहब कुछ कहना चाहते हैं.
जी मैं यही कहना चाहता हूँ. If you can hear me, Farooq, can you hear me?
जी
right. Exactly 200 milligram of rifaximin is not evidence based. I think those who are saying it may work equally well need to do a randomized controlled trial of 550 BD versus 200 milligram BD. By the way, 200 milligram BD is available in Pakistan for some diarrheal illnesses that so over the counter, even in some places it is available. I have my concerns about the free use of aminoliban or branch chain amino acids as the treatment of hepatic encephalopathy.
True.
Well, it is recommended as a nutritional supplement if needed, not as a first line, but maybe as a third line or a fourth line therapy. There are patients who cannot tolerate 0.5 gram per kilogram body weight of protein, and this is the sole factor pushing them into encephalopathy. Here, branch chain amino acid comes in. You can maintain their muscle mass, you can maintain their nutrition, and still give a low protein diet otherwise. So it has a nutritional value rather than as a treatment. It has never been proven that it alters the pathway so effectively that it can be used as a standard of care treatment for hepatic encephalopathy, but certainly has a nutritional value. The other thing about Hepamar, so widely used, the syrup only contains 300 milligram of Lola, which is very, very small amount. And one should discourage use of this syrup Hepamars, which is widely used for all types of liver diseases. But certainly as a third line therapy, high dose, 10 to 20 gram per day of IV or oral. If you are using NG, you have Hepamar sachets here, which are 5 gram each, may be used in such situations. Thank you, Farooq, for a wonderful talk. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Over to Asad for any other questions.
Ji, Farooq, there's another question again about role of aminoleban. Aminoleban is branched chain amino acid, and aminovel, which is a protein, is about it used in diabetic patients in hepatic encephalopathy. Any comments here?
So wait, if it, I don't think there's any distinction there. If you end up using it, then being a diabetic or non-diabetic wouldn't make a huge difference, really.
Yeah. Okay. Any other? I saw Professor Kashif Malik here. Would love to hear from him. Kashif, are you still here? जी काशिफ,
अस्सलाम वालेकुम। हाँ, वो
वालेकुम।
अनम्यूट नहीं हो रहा था। थैंक यू वेरी मच असद, एंड थैंक यू फारूक फॉर अ वंडरफुल टॉक। और इसमें काफी अच्छा कवर हुआ। द ओनली थिंग इज रिगार्डिंग एनजी ट्यूब, हमारे यहाँ पे जो लोकल हमारा पर्सपेक्टिव है उसमें हमें प्रॉब्लम हो जाती है। समटाइम पीपल आर नॉट विलिंग टू स्टे इन द हॉस्पिटल एंड दे वांट टू टेक द पेशेंट होम। अब इशू ये हो जाता है हमारे साथ, जो इस वक्त लोकल हमारा प्रॉब्लम है कि हमें ये पता है कि पेशेंट जो है वो अभी इस कंडीशन में नहीं है कि he or she may die in 2 or 3 days। अब वहाँ फीडिंग का इशू आ जाता है हमारे साथ। इस वक्त जो चल रही है उसमें ये है कि हम उन्हें कहते हैं कि या तो आप घर पे कोई नर्सिंग केयर के लिए लोगों को जो है ना उनका बंदोबस्त करें। उस हवाले से जो था, जैसे आपने एनजी के बारे में कहा कि डोंट सेंड द पेशेंट विद एनजी टू होम, उस हवाले से थोड़ा सा हमारा यहाँ पे इशू होता है कि हमें अगर उसको लैक्टोलोज नहीं मिलेगा, एंड अगेन एज यू सेड कि एनिमा देना उनके लिए इतना फिजिबल नहीं होता घर पे, अगर वो है तो उसकी बजाय अगर हम इसमें दे के और थोड़ी सी फीड, एंड एज डॉक्टर अल्ताफ मेंशन कि अमाइनोलिबैन इवन पाउडर फॉर्म में हम उन्हें थ्रू द एनजी दे सकते हो जिससे थोड़ी सी उसकी न्यूट्रिशन हो। तो इस हवाले से हमारे थोड़े से कंसर्न हैं कि एनजी के बगैर भेजने में जो है वो कुछ भी नहीं लेगा और आईवीज पे भी वो नहीं रहेगा, तो उसमें पेशेंट की जो है ना मिजरी को हम प्रोलॉन्ग कर रहे होते। इसमें कमेंट चाहिए मुझे आपका।
So the standard, the very standard answer is कि मेरे ख्याल में एनजी के साथ पेशेंट को घर भेजना is very risky। हम नहीं भेजते हैं unless के हमें ये बहुत हद तक यकीन हो कि पेशेंट, उसकी फैमिली या उनका सपोर्ट सिस्टम इतना ज्यादा है कि they can manage patient on NG feed। अच्छा, okay, now it's a relative contraindication, it isn't absolute contraindication। अगर पेशेंट घर जाना चाहता है और फैमिली उसकी सपोर्टिव है और प्लस दे हैव गॉट एन एनवायरनमेंट ऑफ नर्सिंग केयर, तो फिर उसमें आप उनको घर भेज सकते हो एनजी पे अगर आप भेजना चाहते हो और पेशेंट बहुत ज्यादा फैमिली पूछ, लेकिन मेक श्योर कि वो नर्स हो जो उसको फीड करे rather than अगर उनके पास नर्सिंग सपोर्ट है। And the way to check whether NG is in the right place is doing what we call pH indicator every time before they feed। क्योंकि the last thing you want is कि NG is replaced into the lungs या वो ऊपर GOJ से भी ऊपर आ गई हुई है and they fed it। Basically all I'm saying is to just simplify this, NG at home is a no-no। You can send patient NG on home, but make every possible safety net or step before they actually feed patient, and every time, really, I think it has to happen।
Farooq, thank you very much. Last question and then over to Kiran। सवाल ये है कि this is about emergency of liver transplant। You have a cirrhotic patient with ascites and no encephalopathy। Number 2 is a patient with encephalopathy and no ascites। तो इसमें आप किसको urgency में push करेंगे?
Sorry, ask me again this. I didn't quite get
देखो,
this।
cirrhotic patient है, one has ascites but no encephalopathy।
Okay।
And the other has encephalopathy but no ascites। तो
okay,
So how would you categorize them for transplant?
Okay, so that's exactly why I've given one slide on transplant. Okay, so the patient who hasn't got encephalopathy will have to have a MELD of 15, no matter how good or bad the ascites is, all right? But the patient who has got encephalopathy, particularly grade 3 or grade 4, please refer him, क्योंकि अगर उसका MELD low भी होगा तो transplant centers will try and evaluate him sooner, because we know that encephalopathy is reversible, number one. Number two, it's not, unfortunately, the treatment isn't very effective. And third thing, I would rather transplant a patient with minimal period of severe encephalopathy than a large period, because जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि post transplant the cognitive outcome of patients who have lived in encephalopathy for very long is very different to a patient who lived a short time. So yes, so the short answer is the patient with ascites and no encephalopathy will have to wait to get to the MELD 15, which is a or UCALD 52 if they want to like it. But on the other hand, the patient who has got encephalopathy but no ascites, he can be considered for transplant sooner than MELD 15.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Farooq. And once again, I would like to thank Pakistan Society of Hepatology, President Kashif Malik is here. Thank you, Kashif, and Sami Pharmaceutical for their support. Over to you, Kiran.
Thank you, Dr. Farooq. And I would like to add that we would like to thank our chairman, Parsa Trust, Mr. Chaudhry Suhail Akhtar, Dr. Asad Ali Chaudhry, our director, Dr. Amna, our facilitator, Uzair, coordinator, Haris for IT support, and Salman. Allah Hafiz. Uzair, you can call off the meeting.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I'm going to call off the meeting.
Thank you, everyone. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.